my thing and we'll go to
Bang.
Bang!
Welcome, everybody, to Saturday Night Bang. Tonight we got, as usual, Rob Farlow, Stone Sailor, and his friend Chad Marks. Thanks for being here, Chad Marks. Thanks to everyone in the chat for being here. And Rob, what is this?
Listen up. This ain't Saturday Night Fever. It ain't Saturday Night Live. It's Saturday Night Bang, baby.
Bang.
And we got one hell of a show for you. So sit back, relax, open your ears, Dickie, and pay attention. I want to introduce this guy. We got a great guest. He's got a compelling story. All right. His name is Chad Marks. Go ahead, Chad. Tell him about yourself.
All right. My name's Chad Marks. I'm from Rochester, New York. At the age of 24, I was arrested by the federal government. I was offered a plea agreement that could have been as low as 11 to 14 years. That didn't happen. I ended up proceeding to trial, was convicted for a nonviolent drug crime and sentenced to 40 years. I spent 17 years, 5 months and 21 days of my life in federal prison. During that time, I learned the law, worked in the law library, wrote some of my own motions, and I ended up being able to secure my release under compassionate release after the First Step Act was passed.
One question, Chad. Were you convicted under the 94 crime bill, the mandatory minimums? Were you sentenced under those guidelines?
100%. I was sentenced under the Stack 924C law with a 841 conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine.
Which
I
was
heard you talk
authored
about those, Rob. How
yeah, and it was authored.
They were how do you say it? They were in
unintended consequences. Well, that happened, and the disparity between crack and powdered cocaine.
Right.
And you being a white crack cocaine dealer, you caught their eye. I mean, you were the minority they were looking for, the white guy.
100%, and they definitely wanted to use me as an example, and they did it. Yeah. I was 24 years old, ended up with 40 years. So,
all right, so you get hit with these mandatory minimums where they put you against the wall. They're charging you. They're like, you're going to get 50 years. You better not take this to trial. Blah blah blah. All the intimidation tactics to get you to cop the plea. All right, and you didn't. You stood up. So go ahead.
Yeah, I went to trial. Eventually went to trial. Was convicted. The judge couldn't go any lower than the 40 years. He had to give me the 40 years. So, like I said, the whole time I was in prison, man. Well, not the whole time. I wasn't always a nice guy. I was, in some dangerous places. I was in USP Big Sandy. I was in USP Coleman, USP Pollock in Louisiana. But, after about 7 or 8 years, I said, you know what? I want to change my life because something's going to happen. I thought maybe they might bring back parole, and I didn't want to go in front of a parole board, with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 write-ups and, write-ups for a knife, for stabbing people, for selling dope in prison, for any type of gang shit, stuff like that. So, I just started learning, man. I started learning the law. I started going to school. I ended up getting a college degree in prison. I taught Leaders Breed Leaders. I taught Alternative Violence Project seminars, became a suicide companion. And eventually my judge used all that stuff to release me under the compassionate release statute after the First Step Act was changed. So he used the stacking of 924C, which they changed. The 25 years for the second or subsequent conviction became 5 years, but they didn't make it retroactive. That meant it didn't apply to people like me or, all the guys, men and women that have been sitting in prison suffering under those laws. So I argued that was an extraordinary and compelling reason. I said, if Congress found this to be wrong for the guys that are coming in now, it has to be wrong for people like me. And my judge agreed with that argument. And in conjunction with my rehabilitation, he found that there was extraordinary and compelling reasons to reduce the sentence. And he did so. And I was released on June 25th, 2020, about 8 and a half years ago.
Well, the freedom, bro.
What was the total number when you got out?
I served 17 years, 5 months, and 21 days. But let me tell you the crazy part about this, right? After my judge released me, he resentenced me to 20 years. I had like 2 months left from the date that, he made that decision. My family came to Kentucky to pick me up, and they were in the parking lot waiting for me. And as I'm walking out, they called on the walkie-talkie, and they said, stop Chad Marks, stop him, there's an appeal. And, dude, I felt worse than when I blew trial, than when I lost trial. Because I seen my family in the parking lot. They turned me around, put me back into prison, and eventually 3 weeks later, the appeals court released me. But man, that was devastating. You know, I was so close yet so far away, and that shit's real, man.
Yeah, we had a guy named Richard Midkiff who spent 20 plus years. I don't know. Have you heard of him, Chet?
I know the name, Richard Minkoff. I know the name.
Yeah, he spent 11 years of those 20-something years that he was inside in the law library as.
Oh, you're talking about Minka?
Midkiff, Midkiff.
Okay.
And he got out, and after a year of being out, they appealed his appeal and wanted to remand him back to court. But he just won that victory. He got married. He's working as the head paralegal of a law firm. So, I mean, it's kind of like very similar stories. And I got to tell you, I that's what I want. I want to highlight that. Oh yeah, we want our prison system to reform people and stuff. It's designed to do the exact opposite, and you overcame that, and you're doing so great. And you have a lot of plans for the future to go on. I'll let you continue. Go on.
Okay, so I mean, you know, like I said, you know, I was in some pretty bad places, but when I got released from prison, man, you know, I appreciated my freedom. I learned to appreciate what the framers found so important: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
I say life, liberty, and the pursuit of cannabis. But go ahead. You're good. Happiness.
So in my situation, man, I've seen 1,000 dudes leave prison and be like, hey, Chad, when I get out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But like I said, the whole time that I was in prison, I spent most of my time in the law library the last 9-10 years helping brothers get out of prison that deserve to get out. You know, some people I would turn down. If I thought they were going to get out and do some nonsense, then I wouldn't help them, because I felt like if I help them get out of prison and they go out there and mess up, then it would mess up my chance to get out. So I would only help dudes that I felt were the dudes that deserved to be helped. I don't care how much money they had or what they wanted to pay me. If they weren't doing the right thing, I wasn't doing their case. And I became known as, you know, one of the best, if not the best, jailhouse lawyer in the federal prison system because of all the success that I had. So getting out of prison, you know, extremely happy. And the things that I'm doing now, I got out, I started a paralegal and prison consultant firm. I've never charged anybody a penny for prison consulting because prison consultants have a bad name. So I didn't charge any money for the prison consultant aspect. I started that with a woman by the name of Lisa Jacoby. She ran the federal defender's office in my city. So we have that, Freedom Fighters, paralegal and prison consultant firm. I also wrote a book while I was in prison, and I published it, self-published it. You can see it behind me. Blood on the Razor Wire. People can get that on Amazon. The reason I wrote that book was because I had read so many books while I was in prison, and these guys were in lows, they were in minimums. They could never tell the story that I could tell because they never experienced what I experienced. I was in one of, if not the worst and most violent federal prison in the system at that time, USP Big Sandy in Inez, Kentucky. And that's what the book's about. The first 3 chapters are free. People should check it out on Amazon. I promise you will not be disappointed.
So that was in Kentucky. Are you still in Kentucky? And where do you help people? All over the country, or?
No, I'm not from Kentucky, man. I'm from New York, but I know I got a crazy accent.
Yeah,
right?
I never heard of it.
I've been in I've been down south the whole time, so my accent changed. I was in Coleman, I was in Louisiana, I was in Kentucky for a long time. But that's the crazy thing. I started, and I'm sure Rob can attest to this. I started in the most violent, worst federal prison in the United States, which was Big Sandy in Kentucky. Yes. I'm not from Kentucky. I'm from New York. I get to Kentucky and I say, how the fuck did I end up in this place? You know what I mean? Like, how did I end up here? So then, in the end, I came full circle. I ended up in a low security my last 9 months, right? Worked my way down. And I ended up in Kentucky, and I felt like this was the full circle. I started in Kentucky. I'm going to finish in Kentucky. And I believed in my heart that I was getting out of prison. And especially when they sent me back to Kentucky. I didn't ask to go there either time. But yet I ended up in ended up in that state in 2 different prisons, man. So
Chad, your story is truly inspirational, man. It really is.
Yeah.
And I know from working in the BOP and working at USP 1 Coleman, I knew plenty of officers that had worked at Big Sandy, and it was a horror stories they told me from over there, how dangerous it was, and how much USP 1 Coleman.
That was your prison, right?
That was my prison, and it was. I was told that was nothing compared to what to what Big Sandy was. And we had murders too in my places, and stabbings and slashings and all that shit. So the Big Sandy era was just the war. The yard was just a combat zone.
Hey, listen, it was like this. It's like a machine, right?
Yeah.
Either you're going to make it or you're not. When you get to that prison, they don't even give you new khakis. They say, look, if you're still here in 30 days, come back and we'll give you all brand new stuff so you can go on a visit, because they don't expect most people to stay there. You know what I mean? It's a dog eat dog.
Yeah, they'll check right in, sure.
I mean, right off the bus. I mean, I went on the bus with probably 30 dudes, and I can tell you, honestly, I think there was 5 or 6 dudes left 3 months later that came on that bus of 30 with me. Probably 10 checked in right off the bus. I talk about one of the dudes that checked in in my book, like right from the rip. This dude's talking all this tough guy stuff. Dude out of Wisconsin that they called Shamrock.
Hey, tell them what checking in means real quick so the viewers know.
So checking in means when you get to a prison, I mean, you can do it while you're in prison, but a lot of times guys check in off the bus. So when you get to the prison, you tell them, look, I'm scared. I can't make it here. And, you know, the lieutenant, the captain will say, well, why can't you make it here? They said, well, you know, I snitched on someone, or, you know, I'm a chomo, I'm a child molester. Chomo, that's what they call them. Or, you know, hey, look, you know, I had an incident at another prison with some skinheads or some dirty white boy gang members, and I know they walk the yard here. I'm hit if I go out. And a lot of times they will, you know, let people check in. You can do that on the compound. A lot of guys owe dope bills or whatever, and they go tell the cop, you know, on the way to jail. A lot of times they hit the lieutenant's office and say, look, I'm in danger. You know, I owe these guys $5,000 for heroin. I got to get out of here. And they let them check in. You know, and
it happens all the time. It happened all the time to me.
Gotcha.
Guys would check in. Right in my office.
Hey, Chad. I'm sorry, Rob. See, I'm Finn, the Finterrupter. I want to let everybody know of your channel, Blood on the Razor Wire TV. And you just started this 2 days ago?
About 4 or 5 days ago, I started putting everything together, right?
And you have 242 subscribers already. So you already have a strong base of people following your story, which is obviously, you know, important when you coming on here. But of course, people are going to follow you. And that's why everybody watching this, go to any mods, go to Blood on the Razor Wire TV and share that link in the chat, please.
I certainly appreciate that. But I want people to know what Blood on the Razor Wire is too, right?
Yeah. I saw someone ask you, why did you write the book? And your answer was, I want to show people what it's really like in there, or tell people.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, people need to know what's really going on. The book isn't just about, it's based on Big Sandy, right? It's the most violent, most dangerous federal prison in the system at the time when I went in. And it's still extremely dangerous. But like I said, all these dudes wrote these books. They never experienced what I experienced. They never seen what I seen. So the book is a lot about prison, but it also leads up, you know, through my life, how I was working my way to Big Sandy and didn't even know it when I was out there selling dope, you know, carrying a pistol, thinking I was a tough guy on the street. And the book takes you through that stuff, and it's emotional and it's violent. I mean, I'm not going to hold no punches, man. The book's violent because that's what's really happening. Yeah. People are, you know, a lot of people didn't really realize what was going on in the federal prison system until Whitey Bulger was killed. I'm sure you guys remember that, right? USP Hazleton. You know, they knew there was allegations that this guy was a rat, that, you know, he was, you know, raping, you know, young girls. And I'm going to tell you something about that. But let me say this first. People didn't realize how dangerous it was until he died. They sent this guy to USP Hazleton and let him go out on the yard. He should have never been allowed to leave the R&D department when he got there. They knew he would
came from Penn 2.
Yeah. Penn 2. And if you come to a regular prison from Coleman Penn 2 and you're a white dude at the very, you know, I can speak for the white dudes. These people want to know, why were you at Coleman 2? Because Coleman 2 is a dropout gang member yard. Unfortunately, you know, I'm not holding no punches. I was at Coleman 2, right? And just because you're a dropout gang member, that don't mean you debriefed and you told on people. You know, things might have happened to you in the system, and they're like, look, man, it's over. Like, I was stabbed in the federal prison system. I was stabbed in the back, actually. But people didn't know what was going on. And I had an opportunity to be with Whitey Bulger because after all the stuff happened, I was stabbed. I was in Tucson. I was in Tucson when Whitey Bulger got stabbed there. And he would go to, I was in the shoe. I did a year in the hole over there. So I would go to rec with Whitey every day, and he'd be in his cage, I'd be in mine, and I would talk to him. And I asked him about a lot of that stuff. And I said, hey, you know, what happened? Why didn't you, you know, he says, listen, these people were saying I was raping young girls and doing this and snitching. He said, Chad, I couldn't come out. I was in hiding. He said, if I wasn't, I would have came out and killed these fucking people, man, for talking bad about me. He said, I couldn't do anything. There was nothing I could do. He said, you know, it destroyed me mentally and emotionally, but I couldn't come out because if I came out, they're going to arrest me. So that's when people started realizing what's going on in the federal prison system. And my book takes you inside, and I can tell your viewers right now that this isn't a 60 days in. You know, this federal prison system is real. People are dying. People are stabbing cops. My cellie stabbed the CO in Big Sandy. He ended up getting 25 more years for it. And he stabbed him, I talk about this in the book, over a gallon of wine. This man made a gallon of wine. The cop took his wine, and he said, hey, I'm going to stab this dude. And I said, yeah, sure you are. He said, bro, I'm about to stab him. And I was like, wow. He went down there and he stabbed the CO. He did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, when you're talking about how you got stabbed in the back as just like a side note, people realize, damn, that must have been messed up if that's just a side note. Jeez.
Well, let me tell you what the crazy part is about it. Dude owed me $45, right? And instead of checking in, he figured he just stabbed me so he could go to the hole, get a write-up, hey, for stabbing someone. So when he gets to the next prison, they say, let me see your paperwork. He shows them, yeah, man, I stabbed the dude over there. And they're like, okay, cool, you're cool to come on the yard. But really, he stabbed me because he owed a bunch of people money, and he only owed me $45. But anyway, dude stabbed me in the back, and then he ran. I ended up catching him, man. It's in the shot. They wrote me up for it. I caught him, took the knife from him. I could have killed him, but I had an appeal in. I did not want to kill this dude, man. So I threw the knife to the side, just pounded his head in, right? And I ended up getting a 100 series shot for a serious assault. He got wrote up for stabbing me. He got to leave the prison. I came back out. But man, but check this out. When he stabbed me, they took me to medical and they put this long ass Q-tip in my back. And they're like, "Oh no, you're good." Well, there was another stabbing the next day, and dude got stabbed, and they stuck that same Q-tip in his side, and they're like, "No, you're good." Well, he went in the cell and he died. He died from internal bleeding. When they said, "No, you're good, man. You're all right. You're gonna make it. It's not that serious." But the dude had internal bleeding. He died. I lived, man, by the grace of God.
Wow. Chad, that's how I got my staph infection through the prison, through Coleman 1 in my eye. That's what went in my spine and paralyzed me because of that place. There's people that go in there with a small wound and they put a Band-Aid on it and they get MRSA. They get all kinds of shit in there. One guy got sepsis and died from a little infection.
Yeah, I was around a long time, so I've seen a lot of creepy stuff. But let me take you back. Let me take you back to Blood on the Razor Wire and what the mission is, right? Everybody has a story to tell. We live in a society where people glamorize the villain. And I say this all the time. The John Gottis of our worlds, the Bonnie and Clydes, the gangsters, right? So everyone has a story to tell because people are going to be interested in that. So that's the opening. But my mission is to save kids from life imprisonment and premature death, man. And I mean that. I'm passionate about it. I don't want to see kids go down the road that I went down. And I'm hoping that our stories, this is a Scared Straight program, but I'm hoping that our stories are the introduction. It opens the door for us to tell you what's real, man. What really hurts about being in federal prison or what hurts about being in state prison. That there are consequences for your actions and you're going to regret them if you end up behind bars. Because this shit's real, man.
Yeah, it is real. And I try to tell kids, too, being on the other side as an officer, you don't want to go to prison. And a question on that. So you, going back, so you got hit with the Biden crime bill in 94. You had a nonviolent case, a drug case, nonviolent. There was nobody died. No one got, seriously harmed. And you got 40 years in prison.
Yeah.
Okay. But through the First Step Act, which was just passed through the Trump. And I'm just trying to show the compare and contrast. I'm just showing that there was a lot of guys I know that First Step Act I saw change. It saved a lot of people in there. A lot of inmates that were sentenced like you, that First Step Act got them out.
Prisoners, a lot of prisoners. I don't use the word inmate, man. I try to stay away from that word.
Prisoners.
It's cool. It's all respect. This is the thing, right? The First Step Act did help a lot of people. Honestly, it could have went a whole lot further, but it did help a lot of people. I wrote the first compassionate release motion to ever win. I wrote it for a guy that was an ex-mayor and an ex-chief of police in Texas. His name was Conrado Cantu. And I told him, look, I'm not sure, but I think I'm right. If you want to practice, you want to try this, then we can try it. So I did it. I wrote it. We sent it to the court, and the judge agreed with us. He won. He got out. And then after that, it was a domino effect. Just people, all kinds of people started getting out. I was able to help 2 dudes get out that had life sentences. I think I've helped 40 dudes get out of prison.
That's awesome, man.
One of the dudes is from Florida, Lonnie Lee Nichols. He had an 851, which means he had 2 prior drug felonies for small amounts of methamphetamine, I believe it was. And then he got a federal drug charge for some more, nonsense. And they gave him a life sentence. And I told him, I said, look, man, you're in Florida. It's almost impossible to win a compassionate release motion down there. So we argue that the change in law in the First Step Act under the 851 enhancement was an extraordinary and compelling reason, even though it wasn't retroactive, in conjunction with his rehabilitation, and his mother was sick. And the judge agreed, and I couldn't believe it. The government didn't even respond to our motion. So I wrote the judge and said, look, you ordered the government to respond. They haven't responded. 2 weeks later, she tells them to respond again. They don't. I write another letter. Look, judge, they haven't responded. She gets the letter that day. The next day, she issues her order, and Lonnie Lee Nichols walks out of federal prison.
Just like last week, we had a lady on named Susan Bassey. She's a paralegal, right? And she knows the law. And I told her, just like the prisoners, I knew prisoners that are better than any fucking lawyer you'll ever get out here. Okay? Because when your skin's in the game and your neck's on the chopping block, you learn law really fast.
Yeah,
for sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, and I'm wondering, I know there's a process that you could become a lawyer. You could, right, depending on the state, you can apply for a pardon or whatever that restoration.
I don't need any of that. You don't even need that. Listen, I'm going to tell you two dudes right now. Brandon Sample was a federal prisoner, learned the law in prison, got a degree in prison, got out, went to law school, became a lawyer, right? There's numerous people. And he's one of the best post-conviction attorneys out there, and he's a friend of mine. Sean Hopwood, I'm sure you guys might know who he is. He was on 60 Minutes. He was sentenced to, I believe, 14 or 15 years in federal prison for armed bank robbery, served 11 years, went home, got a law degree, became a lawyer, became a law professor at Georgetown, and an advisor to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's daughter, Tiffany Trump, was his assistant at Georgetown Law. And this dude's
I remember now.
I remember that now. He's a close friend of mine as well.
So he's a professor of law at Georgetown University now?
Yeah, he's a law professor over there, and he's got his own law firm now. His wife's going to law school. I mean, really good dude, man.
Well, I don't even think I need to ask.
That's pretty impressive.
I don't even think I need to ask you, Chad. I think you're already telling the universe you're going to be an attorney.
Well, you want the truth?
Yeah.
I've thought about it, right? And I was thinking maybe I'm going to go to law school, but I got so many things going on right now. I'm not sure if that's my avenue, man. I'm 42 years old now, so I mean, I can do it, but I got a lot of other stuff going on. Like with I got a construction company that I just started where we want to hire felons that get out of prison.
Sure.
Because I believe this. I believe guys that serve 10, 15 years, 20 years, they get out and they appreciate their freedom. They want a real. I know how I felt. I want a real job. I want to come out here and work and be happy and live my best life and be free. Sure. So I'm willing to invest in them guys, and that's what we're doing. We're putting that together now.
I got to tell you, since I was a little kid, I've had this call to service, and one of my earliest dreams was to be able to have like a warehouse somewhere where we could like process like a homeless person. Like, hey, here's a shower, here's a suit, $100 in it, and there's a typewriter. You learn how to type because back in the day we had typewriters. And you could get a job somewhere or something. And I found this place called Hannah's Homeless that actually did that here. They did extreme makeovers for these guys. And the one dude came back with a couple of job offers that day. And what you're doing is you got a re-entry house that you're going to build. That's my favorite part of your story right now.
Well, I don't have that yet, but that's what we're working on. I was trying to buy a house. It's hard to buy houses in my city right now, extremely hard. But I think once this COVID thing is done, that's what we want to do, man. We want to get a house, 9, 10 rooms. We want to put some reentry stuff in there, try to help guys get on track because I know what it was like when I got out. Dude, I'm still scared to use the credit card because I went to Home Depot today and bought, a whole bunch of $4 or $5 grand worth of tools. But I was afraid to put my card in there because there was a line behind me. I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't even know how to use a credit card when I got out of jail. I didn't know how to use a computer. I don't know how to edit videos.
Yeah.
Which I'm learning now, but I have to pay someone to come here and edit the content for Blood on the Razor Wire this week. So it's hard, man. Walking out of prison, it's hard. I had plenty of money when I got out of prison, right? But I couldn't even get an apartment. I actually checked the felon box on the apartment thing. Denied. And I'm like, wow, man.
I can understand. I can understand certain, sex offenders got it, but for people with felonies, I mean, as long as it isn't something like that, what's the problem? I don't. I mean, if they got the money to pay rent, let them move. I mean, how could you? That's not right. Discrimination like that.
Right now, I'm living in a shed, man. I just built this room in there. No, I'm joking, man.
And look like what? Nice. I was saying it's nice.
I'm messing with you.
Hey, yo, let's get this guy out of this shed. Come on.
Yeah, man, let's get him out of there. Hey, but I tell people, I've met some of the most intelligent people in the world in prison, and I'm not talking about the staff. Okay, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff, the genius some of the stuff that these guys would come up with, like, you got to be smart, to think of something like this. Yeah, you used it for a bad purpose, but you got the brain power there. You got it, obviously.
Man, I've met some extremely intelligent dudes in there too. Like you said, man, these dudes are making moonshine. They're hooking wires to the wall. I mean, you'd be like, what the hell are they doing? I bet so many dudes that had inventions in prison, and they're so excited about them. They're like, I want to tell you about this one. And then they tell you, wow. And then another dude, and then the dude's like, but that's not even close to my best one. I'm not going to tell you my best one. And then you're like, man, these dudes deserve to get out of prison. Some of the best athletes I ever seen are in prison, man.
Me too. When I would watch the basketball games or the flag football, the softball, man, there's some awesome athletes in prison. They could play anywhere.
You were at the one probably when Steve Caracappa was there, the New York City mafia cop.
I used to have conversations with him. Yeah,
mafia cop.
He was an NYPD retired detective that was a hitman for the mafia. Wow. I mean, he claimed he wasn't. But
let me tell you what he was. He was the head of the homicide division for the mafia murders. And he
He's
going to investigate himself.
He was my cellmate, man. He was my cellmate for about 60 days.
He died of cancer. Yeah, he died of cancer, prostate cancer. Yeah.
Can you imagine that guy who walks up on the scene? He's like, "Ma'am, so what this guy look like?" Like you.
He had a mustache. He grew his hair long. He was a skinny dude, real skinny,
Okay.
dude. But
they said in one of his articles that he was cold as ice, and if you met him, his eyes, you could see him cold as ice for real.
He would have, I used to have conversations with him. Matter of fact, I told him, because of you, I read the book, Mafia Cop, the one that is part of it. I read it. I read the book.
I was with Eppolito too. I was with Eppolito too.
Oh, him too, right? That was his partner.
I was with him in another prison too, man.
In Tucson? Was he in Tucson?
Yeah, I was in Tucson with him. Yeah, I was in Tucson.
I hear he's okay over there. They didn't have any problems, from what I understand. They never had any problems. I know Caracappa went to Penn 2. I know they moved him there because Penn 1 said, go ahead.
I was in Penn 2 with him, and then you know that pirate dude was there too, from that Captain Phillips, the young kid.
Yeah,
I used to call him the pirate. I told
you were telling me about him.
I used to call him, "Hey, it's the pirate."
And his English wasn't that good. You remember his English wasn't very good?
No, exactly.
You know what he used to call me? Well, I looked a little younger, had my hair combed to the side. He used to say, "Hey, you look like John Hinckley." The shot Reagan. And I'm like, you know who John Hinckley is? And he used to call me John Hinckley. He'd ask me for potato chips. Hey, John Hinckley, give me potato chip.
Because that was probably the first and only newspaper that he ever saw over there in 1980 when it happened. Listen,
the Beatles are worldwide, man.
Bro, huh?
The Beatles are worldwide.
Hey, I walked around one time. He had all this garbage outside of his door, and it stunk really bad. And he had a guy that was with him that used to talk, not his language, but I guess would communicate with him. Yeah. And I said, please ask him to move this, because get it out of here. It's stinking the whole tier up. Yeah. And I'm going, what do you call this? And I'm pointing at the garbage. He goes, boo. I said, huh? This. He goes, boo. I said, what the? He goes, boo, it's boo. And I'm like, take the boo the fuck out of here and throw it. It was the pirate,
Dude, remember I said about Caracappa about his eyes, right? Whitey Bulger. Let me tell you about Whitey Bulger. When you guys see him, you see them clips he had. Huh?
One time I did overtime at Penn 2, and I did it, and I saw him in the unit, and I went up to him and I said something to him. Go ahead, tell your story.
Well, the dude, he don't look like the clips that people seen. He looked old and haggard now when I was with him.
He was on a walker, like me.
Yeah, you could see in his eyes, man. You could see in his eyes that he was a killer. And, he had been in, what was that old prison in California?
Alcatraz.
He was in Alcatraz in like the 30s, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he would tell me stories and all that stuff, but you could see death in his eyes, man. That dude was a stone cold killer, man.
Sure. Is Whitey Bulger?
Matter of fact, I asked Bulger, I'm like, hey, how was Alcatraz? He goes, better than this effing place. That's what he told me.
He was a crazy old dude.
Yeah,
man.
he was on a walker too. Like I walk now, and I was like, they just said you were jogging like 5 miles a day in California on the beach when they picked you up. Like you,
when he was in Tucson, he didn't have a walker no more. That was over with. And dude stabbed him. A Boston dude stabbed him with a pencil, man. And he stabbed him because the dude owed a dope bill and wanted to get out of there, so he stabbed Whitey Bulger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know, and they had to. I had to watch a guy one night that was on he was on, what do you call it, dry cell, and he was telling me that he was in the cage with Boulder, that I was doing an overtime at Penn 2. He was on dry cell. A guy, he ate balloons, they said, and I was watching him. Dry cells where we see that they got cameras, or an officer sees them in the visiting room, maybe putting a balloon or trying to hide drugs and swallow it, or they try to ingest it. We have to watch them, and they have to do 3 live poops.
And the cop has to search it. The cop searches it, man.
Oh, he's got to go in there with gloves and just pick through somebody's stool. That's messed up.
Yeah, one of the worst jobs you could ever have, man.
Who would have
that job?
Rob, I always ask him, like, how do you spend time in there more than most prisoners? You know what I mean? Like, who would sign up for that? And he's got a heart of gold, man. How long have you known Rob?
Not that long, man. A couple months. I seen him on a show and hit him up and was like, hey, what's up? And I wanted to know when he was working over there because he looked familiar to me. I've probably seen him before in the prison as a prisoner and him as a cop. And I had a dude in my unit that was my CO in Pollock 10 years ago. And then he got caught bringing dope into the prison. And then he was a prisoner and ended up in my unit in Lexington, Kentucky. And I was like, and I seen him. I was like, man, I know you from somewhere, man. I got a memory like an elephant, bro.
Yeah.
So when I'm like, man, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Louisiana. And they got that accent,
Yeah, that Cajun.
And I said, damn, man. I said, you were a cop. He said, oh, man, don't tell no one. Don't tell no one. So I said, I know who you are. But then he told a couple other people that he was a cop. He was in a low now. But at
was
first,
his name Powell?
Man, I don't remember his name, man. But I knew he was a black dude, a little skinny black dude. He ended up becoming a truck driver after he lost his job, while his case was pending. And then he came to federal prison. But I knew it, man. And he was over there, dude. They're supposed to change the officers, I think, every 90 days. Yeah. But over there, they didn't follow no rules. Like, that was his housing unit for a year and a half. So when I seen him, I knew him. I was like, man, I know you, man. And I was like, man, you were the cop. He's like, don't tell no one. Don't tell no one. They stole his whole locker at night. One night they took while he was sleeping. You put all your food in there and stuff. He was only there about 2 weeks, got his commissary, and they put his locker on a dolly, man, on the 3rd floor, and they rolled it down the stairs to the 1st floor and stole all his stuff. And he went and told.
Wouldn't he check in, like you said?
Well, not there, not at a low, because at a low, that's where they send former cops and people that are.
Oh, okay. So everybody checked in there.
Yeah, and for real, man, I felt like it was the worst prison I ever been in. I felt like a real piece of shit even being there. For real, it killed my self-esteem. That, man, it still bothers me.
That are in there, huh?
Yeah, because I that wasn't the type of dude that I was. But I was like, man, everyone talks about, man, I want to go to a low. It's laid back. It's like a retirement home, for guys like me that got, 40, 50, 60 years, and you finally make it to a low security where everything ain't so bad. But, man, that was the worst prison I ever been in, man. Wow. The worst. Just horrible.
Talk about the 8th Amendment violations, the cruel and unusual punishment that you witnessed in there. I mean, aside from getting stabbed in the back, I mean, what happened to you from the staff in these places? What were their And I'm not just talking about like an isolated incident of somebody doing something. What was like their systematic routine of doing fucked up shit? Like Rob says they would send him out to drive the truck on perimeter so he wouldn't see them doing stuff. Like he told them, I don't want you to do stuff in front of me. I'll report you.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this, right? I've seen a lot of bad shit in there. And like you said, the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment, you know, Michael Moore had put out a documentary and he went to the prison, I think it was in Finland or Sweden. And he said, this guy killed someone. You only gave him 10 years and he's a butcher here with a knife. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, we're against cruel and unusual punishment. And he goes, well, where'd you learn that at? He said, we learned it from you guys, from the U.S. But the only problem is we implement it. You guys don't. So I say this a lot. A lot of officers, guards, cops, a lot of them forget that the punishment comes from the court, not from them. But they really want to impose punishment. It's like, man, they hate us, man. They hate us with a passion. And they don't even know why they hate us. They just hate us.
Like I got arrested 3 times in as many states last year. And I told everybody that was handling me, hey, look, what you're doing, you could take my liberty. Well, not right now. I'm innocent. But all these other people who committed crimes, you can take their liberty, but don't take their manhood. Don't take their dignity. You're not supposed to do anything except take their time from them.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, right? I'm going to answer your question, but I want to tell you this. I would tell the cops, I would tell them, hey, listen, and I meant this, man. I'd say, look, before I'm an inmate, I'm a prisoner, I'm a convict. Before all of that, I'm a man. Respect me. I got 40 years. I got nothing to lose. So respect me, man. And what I was telling them was, if you do some bullshit to me, there's nothing you can do to me anymore. Exactly. You took my life already. My life's gone. I have a 40-year sentence. There's nothing that you can do to me to hurt me. You know, the only thing that can hurt me, and I tell people this all the time, is if something happened to my mother, man. Other than that, nothing else hurt my feelings. So as far as the cruel and unusual punishment, and you got cops that'll go in your cell, destroy your shit, throw shit all over the place, open your food, dump it out. And I'm talking about destroy your cell. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened in California when they killed the guard down there.
Rivera.
And Canaan, I mean. And
Eric Williams.
The dude went in there, destroyed the dude's cell. Dude kicked him down the stairs, stabbed him through the back of his skull. He killed him because dude's serving life. What has he got to lose? Yeah. You destroyed his shit. You constantly do this. So dude killed him. And you know, people are like, oh man, he was a good guy. Or this. I don't know the cat, right? And I don't want to say nothing bad about him. He had a family and all that. But man, these people go out of their way, man, to do nasty shit. And then when people do nasty shit back, then they're the bad guy, right? It's just, man, dude, they do bad things to people, bro. Hey, what do you got on? What, did you alter your shirt? Give me the shirt. And I used to tell them, man, you're fighting crime today. You know, what does this shirt have to do? Your day?
Yeah. I swear to you, if you ask anybody that knew me, I was not a petty guy. I never worried about shirt. I didn't worry about anything that couldn't hurt me. Okay, if you got an extra piece of chicken on you, who the hell am I? If you got it through food service, so you made it. I mean, what the fuck? What's the big deal, you know? But some of these guys, they want to go and just, well, first of all, you give respect, you'll get it back 99.9% of the time. And always just give respect to people, and you're really never going to have a problem. I mean, you have people that are bugs, that are off medication and things like that, or should be on it. I had a use of force. My first use of force was on a bug. You know, he just was off his medicine. And you know, it happens. But 99.9, you give respect, you get it. Treat people how you'd like to be treated. Remember, these guys are fathers, they're sons, they're grandfathers. You understand? They're human beings. And you're not there to punish them. You're there for care, custody, and control.
Did you say bug? Like he's bugging out? He's a bug?
A crazy person.
He's a bug.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I was like that, right? I'd rather you be an asshole and be consistent than not be consistent. One day you're a nice guy, next day you're an asshole, right? Yeah. Now I don't know what to expect. And you're right, man. And that's advice to other guards is, look, man, just give respect and people will respect you back. Because if that day ever happens, and, you know, I pray that it don't, but if it ever happens, you know, like Attica and stuff like that, then those are the guys that dudes are going to be looking for, man. You know, and Thomas Silverstein, I don't know if you know, if you're
of course.
But you know, they said that he killed 2 cops. They said 1 cop, right? I think he killed 2.
He killed one, and the other guy, Clay something, killed another.
I wrote about that in my book. Clayton killed another cop a couple hours later. But he said, look, this dude was throwing away my mail, throwing away my pictures. He said, and you know what? He was crying about, hey, don't kill me. I got a family. He said, well, he didn't care about my family.
Yeah.
When he was throwing my kids' pictures away or my mother's pictures, he didn't care about my family.
When you were talking about how you caught up to the guy who stabbed you, and now this, it just reminds me that, ironically, some place that you wouldn't expect, that's where you find justice. You know, right in the prison.
Yeah,
justice.
Let me tell you something. The dude that stabbed me was a serial killer out of D.C. He could have killed me. He hit me near my spine from the back. And when he hit me, I put my hand in my back of my shirt, and I seen the blood. And I told my buddy, man, I said, hey, he just stabbed me. My buddy started chasing him. And then I think he realized, like, oh, man, he stabbed you. And he stopped, like, you know how Fred Flintstone stopped in that car and the dust came up? My buddy quit chasing him, but not me. I chased him, man, because I was like, man, I felt in my heart like, man, if I'm about to die, I'm getting this dude back, man. I'm not going to die like that. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting him, and then, like, it kind of flashed in my mind. I took the knife from him, dude. I could have killed that dude, man. I probably hit that dude 20 times. I could have stabbed him 20 times, but I didn't do that, man. I had my opinion. I wanted to get out.
Thank you for getting justice and showing mercy too. You know, being better. You're a better man, and that's what I'm saying. That's like a true justice moment. That was like trial by combat right there.
Man, dude, it's a dangerous place, man. I'm sure you've seen knives and stuff. I got some pictures of knives in my book. Those knives that dude's got in there, man, they're like swords, man.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up your book. Leslie Savan, a stalwart supporter of our group, she put it in the chat. Everybody go on Amazon. What are they selling it for?
It's $15.
That's not bad.
Yeah, and I don't really people should know I don't really make a bunch of money, man. I get like $5 off the book.
Even if you did, you wrote it. It's your life.
Well, what I want that book to lead to bigger and better things, man. And I'm actually in some talks with some important people right now. They reached out to me. I didn't go looking for them, but I'm hoping that it turns into a movie, and that gives me a bigger platform now, right? Where I can.
I was going to say that this sounds like a movie, and I want to play myself, Chad, in the movie. I want to play a CO.
I got you.
In the bank, because I'm telling you,
if that happens, man, I'm definitely going to tell them, man, you need to be in there. I mean that. I'm a loyal dude too, man. People that are loyal to me, I'm loyal to them. And for real, man, it's just, man, dude, it's sad that so many people like me, I deserve to go to prison. I sold drugs. I carried a gun. I deserve to go to prison. But at 24, I did not deserve 40 years.
No.
And the crazy part is there was a plea agreement. I paid $40,000 for a lawyer. There was a plea agreement. I told the lawyer, man, take the plea, but get the 2 points off for the gun so I can get the drug program. Well, the lawyer never did his job. He admitted it on the record, everything. And they superseded me. My mandatory minimum was 10, but then they charged me with 16 more counts because my lawyer fumbled the ball with the plea. And now my mandatory minimum went from 10 to 40. I went to trial. The judge had no choice but to give me the 40 years.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you're mentioning a gun and everything, but you still, all your crimes are nonviolent crimes.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about the gun charge. So you know and your viewers know, right? I was charged with the statute 18 U.S.C. 924C. That is possession of a firearm and or a crime of violence. See, the first part is possession of a firearm or furtherance of a drug trafficking crime and or a crime of violence. The crime of violence is people that carry guns and rob banks, rob other drug dealers. That's the violent aspect of that charge. But it can also be violated in a nonviolent manner. And that's why Congress changed the law. Instead of it being the first gun is 5, the second gun's 25, and they can all be in the same indictment. So Congress came back and said, hey, this isn't what we meant. We meant for the second 25 years to be a recidivist enhancement where you go to prison for a gun. You get out. You didn't learn your lesson. Now you got a second gun. Now we give you the second 25 years. But what the government was doing and what law enforcement was doing was they'd find a gun in a drug house, right? They'd leave you out there. They wouldn't arrest you yet because that's only 5 years. They want that other 25. And then they would get you again. There's another 25, right? Yep. And they would still leave you out there. And then you can get another 25 years. And they just stack them. There's some guys got 300 years, man.
Hey,
one of my buddies, Weldon Angelos, he sold 3 ounces, I think like 3 ounces of weed, right? But he sold an ounce at a time. But every time he had a gun on him, the same gun. He got 5 for the first gun, 25 for the second, and 25 for the third. It was all the same gun. But they stacked them. If he was a danger to the community, why didn't they arrest him the first time when they had him with the gun?
Yeah.
It was only 5 years. It's sick, man.
And this is what I say, Chad. I tell these young people, don't defund the police, defund the prosecutors. They are a corrupt class of people. They play fast and loose with our justice system. They don't look at people as like humans. They look at how much they can get in asset forfeitures. These people, and they have absolute immunity. They could ruin your life and never be held accountable for it. They need to concentrate on these prosecutors. They corrupt our justice system because they manipulate things where how do you let a guy go to a crime and then watch him leave, commit another one? What if he kills somebody on the way to the second one? Aren't you responsible for that?
Yeah, they would, but they'd cover it up.
They're a different breed. They're a different breed of people, man, because I understand there has to be consequences, man, for your actions.
I got it.
We can't live in a lawless land, but some of these guys, man, like there's a dude that just got out, Jamel Azell. I write for Criminal Legal News and Prisoners Legal News. I was a staff writer from prison for them. But I used to always write about this dude because, man, this dude, Jamel Azell, he was 19. He robbed a bunch of Domino's pizzas, right? $200, $150. At 19 years old, the judge gave him 132 years. And the judge says, man, I don't want to do this. Well, just to let your viewers know, about 3 weeks ago, Jamel Azell got out under the compassionate release statute and the changes under the First Step Act. Thank God, but he did 22 years. Did Jamel Azell deserve to go to prison? He was a petty robber, man. Yeah. He deserved to go to prison. Thank God no one was killed in any of his robberies. Yeah. He deserved to go to prison. But did he deserve 22 years at the age of 19?
No. Not when you're giving these sex offenders no time, 3 years, 4 years, and they're out. And you got these guys that sold crack, friggin' half a kilo, whatever, took it from Florida to Georgia, got 20 years, and they get to watch this guy who molested kids come and go. And they got to sit there and watch this.
I got a better one for you. How about the dude from Subway? Jared, what the hell was his name?
Whatever his name was, But Vogler, whatever.
Yeah, so he gets 15 years, 8 months, right? And if you listen to some of the videos in that case, you'd be astonished where he was telling the lady, hey, so I want a 7 or 8 year old girl who doesn't have a father. It's easier for me to manipulate them. It's easier for me to manipulate them. And this dude gets a 15-year, 8-month sentence. But I got a 40-year sentence for selling drugs.
Yeah, exactly. And because of these prosecutors and how they're able to, it's crazy. The war on drugs militarized our police force. The war on terror militarized our police force. And now COVID's militarizing our police force. It's crazy. These federal laws. How can the average citizen understand these federal laws? It's like a buffet. They have all these things that are illegal, and then they get to pick and choose and who they want to apply them to.
Kentucky just came up with one where you're not allowed to accost or make any gestures to police officers. A clear, blatant offense of the First Amendment.
That was Kentucky, right? Isn't that Kentucky trying to do that? Yes,
Kentucky.
See? Yeah.
Outrageous, man.
It is. How could you, if the lawyers can't even keep track of these laws, how do you expect a citizen?
You can't.
No excuse, right? Crazy. Not good.
What's some of the craziest shit you've seen in prison? Let me interview you real quick.
Go ahead.
What's the craziest shit you've seen?
Right. Well, let me think. I was in the war too before. So I saw death and things like that in the war. I saw people blown up and shot and, stuff like that. So I kind of had a little bit of going in, Yeah. So, but no, I've seen slashings and stabbings and brutal, beating people up. Of course, I've seen, what else? I seen a guy steal his son's sneakers from the visiting. A kid, he said all he did was tell me how proud he was of his son, who's 18 and this and that. The kid comes in with Jordans, and you know how they give you, when we take you in the booty room, we strip you down, give you the orange for visiting, and you put the shoes on and shit, right? Well, this dude forces his son to give him his shoes. So the kid's walking out of the visiting room crying with his head down, and he's got those little Bobo shoes on. I'm like, whoa. And I go to the kid, I go, where'd you get those shoes? What's going on? And he was crying. He didn't want to tell on his dad. You know what I mean?
Hey, I want to ask you a question because this is something I always wanted to know, right?
Yeah.
As a guard, when you seen people viciously and violently assaulted, man, did it affect you, or did you just go home like, who cares? They're just prisoners. I want to know that answer.
No,
man.
it affected me. I never like to see. I went in one time. I followed a guy. He ran after another guy in the cell. I went in, and it looked like a butcher shop. He was stabbing this guy from his feet like a typewriter all the way up to his arm, to his head. And I grabbed him by his collar, and I ripped him back, pulled all the buttons off, and it was blood everywhere. He threw the knife. Another guy took it. Another guy took it. It was like checkers. It went all around the unit. It was, but I mean, I came home with blood on me and everything. And it always affected me. It always affected me when people were sexually assaulted too, because I worked on the evidence recovery team, and I worked a couple rape cases that were there. One was in the shoe.
Oh, I've seen that plenty of times in the shoe, man.
Huh?
I've seen that happen plenty of times in the shoe.
No.
It says we cannot expect people to have respect for law and order until we teach respect to those we have entrusted to enforce those laws.
Yes, absolutely.
I believe that.
Absolutely, boy. You can get by. I'm telling you, as a CO, if you're respectful, if you go in there and you're respectful and you're just, listen, guys, look, these guys live here, okay? This is their home, okay? And you know what I'm saying? If nobody's trying to escape, nobody's getting hurt, assaulted, raped, hey, it runs itself.
That's it. I used to say that all the time, man. If dudes ain't raping, robbing, or killing each other, man, why do you even care, man? These dudes got a life sentence, man. You think you're in here fighting crime? I tell cops all the time, go be a state trooper and fight crime, man. Leave us the fuck alone, man.
Here's the thing. I believe every cop should have to be a CO first, because you don't rely on a gun. You don't rely on a taser. When I started, Chad, we didn't even have pepper spray. We didn't have pepper spray in the pen. We got it later.
When did you leave?
That way you can also see the result of your wrongful arrest. If you threw somebody in jail for no reason, you know what I mean?
But more importantly, it teaches you communication skills.
Hey,
that's what you need.
What year did you leave the BOP?
I started 2012. I left 2019, retired.
I'm trying to think, man. Oh, so you probably weren't. Lieutenant Phelps was the, damn, man, it was around that time.
Yeah, he was an officer.
He ended up becoming the shoe lieutenant in Pen 2. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember you, man. Did you ever work Pen 2 in the shoe?
I used to work overtime there. The shoe, maybe once or twice. I did a dry cell there that time. I bumped into that inmate that told me that Whitey Bulger was in the cage with him. And he told me I'm going to be killed as soon as I hit the yard there in West Virginia. He told him that.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. That's why I was asking. Do you remember the big white dude who was the CO? He was from Michigan. He was a big honky that worked the shoe over there. And I got in a beef with him on the door. And he was like, "Oh, you want to come down to the laundry room?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Open the door. I'm talking big shit because I don't think they're opening the door. And Lieutenant Phelps was the lieutenant. And they came and took me in the laundry room. And I fought the dude, man. And I'm not going to fake on your show and be like, "Oh, yeah, I beat him up. He was a cop." Listen, let me tell you something. Me and that dude fought toe-to-toe. Where at the end of the fight, man, it was pretty much even, man. Where we were both like, but I couldn't believe. But I sold wolf tickets on the door, man. So when they opened that door, I had to go. I had to come out and fight the cop, and I didn't want to do that, man.
I believe it.
Hey, listen, I was faking because I didn't think they'd open the door. But I was a big kid, you know what I mean, big dude, and he was a big dude, and we fought, man, in that laundry room. But after that, man, he respected me, and I respected him, man. But that's how they did things.
Look, I knew officers. Listen, I knew officers. I used to tell them, I don't want to see that shit. But I knew officers that would go in the laundry room, take their belt off, and have like a wrestling match with an inmate, or a prisoner. Like, that's crazy.
Listen,
I'm not saying. Listen, and nobody got beat up like bad, but it was like, it was like, come on, man, you don't do that.
Yeah, you're going home free. That guy has to stay in jail, man. Like,
no, they both wanted to fuck. I mean, they were. I
know. How do you let people run space in your head that much? If you're
exactly. Bingo.
Let me say this: that Lieutenant Phelps, he ended up years later because of that fight with that officer. He respected me and he remembered me. Years later, he became the captain at Raybrook, and then I came to Raybrook, and I'm from New York. So when I get to Raybrook, he's like, "Hey, man, come here." He's like, "I remember you." He remembered my name and everything, right? So, for real, he started like he had all these new cops coming in, like the new guys and the people that he hired. And dude, he started slap boxing me coming out of the chow hall, man. And I was just like, and the new cops are looking at him like, man, what's up with this dude? He's the captain, and he's, shadow boxing with a federal prisoner. It was just, it was crazy, man.
It's unprofessional as hell, man.
And he was
I heard the stories. Listen, I used to hear the stories, but like I used to tell them, don't do that fucking shit in front of me. Yeah. They knew better because I didn't fuck like, no. That's so. I mean, you're supposed to be an officer. You're supposed to be above reproach. You're not supposed to get that. I knew officers that were accused of stealing from inmates. Their commissary, taking sodas,
search your cell and eat a candy bar, drink a soda.
Oh my God, that's so disrespectful. It's so wrong. Or charging inmates tax and shit, going and shaking them down for friggin' soda and candy.
They had fight clubs at Coleman 1, didn't they?
They did, but they busted all those guys out of there. That was before I got there. But I know the lieutenant that told the lieutenant that told on everybody. Well, he was an officer then. He became a lieutenant after that. I worked with him, and he was a prior Marine, and he was a pretty straight up dude.
I got something your viewers might want to hear. What? Do you remember the dude? Do you remember when the dude? This was before you came, but I'm sure you are probably around that time. The dude reached through the slot and grabbed the CO chick, grabbed her ass, right?
Yep.
So they said, look, they told the SAC dude, yo, bro, I'm going to give you a pack of cigarettes. Beat this dude up. So they gave him a pack of cigarettes. He killed the dude in the cell. It was the lieutenant's wife.
Sharma.
Something like that. Yeah, Sharma. And she ended up with a life sentence. The dude that was working the box and the shoe to open the cells, he ended up with 10 years. The lieutenant, that was his wife, man. And she's got a life sentence in the BOP for that, man. Violating civil rights.
The guy that got 10 years, his sister worked for the Bureau too. She worked with me. Man, his name was Kennedy, Anthony Kennedy, like the Supreme Court guy.
You're 100% right. That was his name.
He went to prison. And his sister still works there. She worked with me. She's really cool.
I couldn't believe the lieutenant's wife got a life sentence.
Yeah. Man. Well, he was still working. They moved him to the low.
Yeah.
They moved him to the low. She went to prison, got life. The other guy got 10 years, and he stayed there and finished at the prison. I think they got a divorce and all that, and gone but he would still bring the kid out there once a month to see her and everything. And they put her in they were afraid she was going to get preferential treatment by the feds because the whole prison testified on her behalf because she claims she didn't do that. She took it to trial. And so they were afraid she was going to get preferential treatment. So I believe they did she's in state custody.
They placed her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See that done. Right. So listen, man, I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, right? I'm a little tired, man.
Yeah, we've been on for an hour. It's like right on time. Perfect.
You guys,
I want to thank you very much. We are cool, man.
Some people were asking for your email. Do you have like contact info for the public?
Put it out, man. Put it out.
My website is www.myfreedomfighters.com. My email is freedomfighterspc@gmail.com. And like I said, man, people that are viewing, I only got one video up because I just started the YouTube channel. But this week, my first interview is going to be with a dude that I talk about in my book that was stabbed in Big Sandy. We later became best friends. He's going to be my first interview. I'm going to try to get some other people on there. I plan on doing lives with my YouTube channel on Sunday nights where people can call and ask me questions about prison. If you got kids that are going down the wrong path, you want to ask me for some advice, I can give you my advice. And I want people to go on there, hit that subscribe button, man, because we got some real content. And like I said, there's some dudes out here with prison channels, and I respect a lot of them. One of them's Josh DOC TV. That dude helped me tremendously.
He's come on the show.
That's my buddy, man. That's my partner.
He's helped me, man. I'm getting more love from you guys than I am from any of the. Well, I don't think any of the other COs even have any shows.
I was proud to have him on the show, and I'm glad to have you too, sir.
Definitely.
Rob, you brought these guys on. I thank you. This is great content, and I'm sure that you're going to be making more great content and helping more people get out of prison, get re-entered into society, and not be prisoners anymore, like you said.
Have people hit that subscribe button, man. Check out the book.
Yeah.
Go buy the book right away. Go read the first 3 chapters for free. I promise you'll be glued. The book sold out the first day on Amazon. But man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you do. Rob, hey, as crazy as it is, man, I never thought I would be, talking to a former, guard in federal prison. But man, I respect you and I like you, man. I like you too, bro. I like the things that you do and the things that you say, man.
Bro, listen, I never had a doubt I would bump into ex-prisoners. I bumped into them at Walmart. Here's the thing. I've never done anybody dirty. I never threw anybody's family's pictures out or ate someone's chocolate bars. I never did shit like that. So I know I don't have that karma around me. So it doesn't, and I'm fucking disabled too. And I have no problems because listen, I never did anybody dirty. My conscience is clear. Okay. So that's why it don't matter. But you're an incredible guy, you and Josh and the guys that are starting these channels. And I want to let you know I'm very proud of you guys. And I know that people might have said, "Oh, you're a piece of this and this and that." You're not a piece of shit. You were never a piece of shit because look at the content and look at the books and look at the shows with Josh and all these great programs and the guests. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
those people, those review makers over here, what you're going to get is people who understand that you should have probably not had that sentence. If you were supposed to go in there, you admit, hey, I did some wrong stuff. I should have gotten it, but maybe for a quarter of the time or something.
Yeah, and you got a story, and you got a story to tell, and you are exactly what America's about: second chances, and also you're going to have the big guest on your show. You're going to have me. Stone Sailor one day, so
hopefully within the next week or two, I want to get you
definitely
on there.
Anytime.
There's another dude, man, that I think some people talk bad about him, but my dealings with the dude, I was beefing with him because I posted something on his thing, the after prison show, and I was like, dude, you took my thing down, like, dude, you're a nobody, you ain't really trying to help people. And then he called me, he's like, F you. I said, nah, bro, I'm not gonna beef with you on Facebook, like F you too. And he was like, look, dude. We ended up working it out, man, because when two elephants fight, the ground suffers. Yeah. So I ended up on his show, man, and I ended up liking the dude, man. So that Joe Guerrero after prison show, he's helping dudes too, man. So I'm gonna get
Joe Guerrero and DOC TV 813. I like that guy. Go see him. And thanks to everybody here in the chat for being here. If you enjoyed this, let Chad know. Type 1 right now in the chat. Let Chad know that you appreciate this content and him sharing his story. Now, as we usually do, Rob Farlow, you're dismissed.
You got it.
Have a good night. All right.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for being here.
All right, bro.
Take care.